All right, so hello all. My name is Arush and I'm one of the members of Fooditude. And first, I'd like to thank you all for joining us here today for our one of many Fooditude presentations. Before we start, I'd like to talk a little bit about our initiative, Fooditude. Fooditude is a holistic health alliance project under the Youth Brigade initiative, with diseases like obesity and diabetes on the rise in our country, effectively becoming a pandemic. We must promote awareness of how we as a community can overcome this obstacle. And so this initiative was formed by a group of dedicated individuals for the sole purpose of making our community aware of how important it is to ensure your diet and lifestyle is infused with healthy greens, succulent fruits, and hearty grains. We do this by posting information on social media and our monthly presentations on various food topics. And lastly, for anyone who finds this topic particularly interesting, we would ask that you get in contact with us and join our team and help spread good eating habits. We're always on the lookout for more volunteers that can help us spread good information. And just as a disclaimer, I'd like to mention that we're just presenting this information based on our research and we're not professionals in the fields. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, who is Arush, who's speaking about food safety and hygiene.
Thank you, Arav. Good afternoon. My name is Arush Shangari, and so didn't you know that over 200 diseases are spread through food? My name is Arush Shangari, and today I'm going to be talking about food safety and hygiene. Just as a disclaimer, this presentation is meant for educational purposes only. None of the information in the presentation is meant to replace a medical advice. So starting off with one of the biggest parts of food safety, which is food contamination. Food contamination is anything in food that is not supposed to be in food. Although it does seem very simple, it can be broken down into physical, chemical, or biological contamination. And then we'll dive deeper into this in the next few slides.
Arush, just 1 second. Arav, is anybody else seeing the image superimposed on the PPT?
Yeah, can you just move the Zoom image on the bottom right off the screen?
Arush, can you do that? Because that's hiding the information.
Yeah.
Wait.
You may have to move the
Can you just
image
swipe
from
it to the side? Just swipe it to the
Yeah.
side.
The image to the side?
Yeah,
No,
at the bottom
just the
right,
Zoom.
where it has the Zoom, like the little window of Zoom.
Oh, that window.
Yeah, just swipe it to the side.
Like that?
Yeah, perfect.
Yep,
There you
yep,
go. Much
that-
better. Much better.
Should I start from the beginning or?
No, you can start where you left off.
Okay. All right. So 420,000 people die each year from contaminated food worldwide. 1 in 10 people in the world get sick each year from contaminated food. These statistics just show the scale of the problem, and it shows how big of a problem this is in the world. So starting off with biological contamination. Biological contamination is the most important form of food contamination, and it is also one of the most common forms. Biological contamination is known to be very easy to identify. As you can see in the images, the strawberries, you could see the mold on the strawberry and also in the fruits in the right image. So this is an example of biological contamination because there's mold and fungi. And biological contamination is not just mold and fungi. It also contains other microorganisms such as viruses, parasites, and bacteria. The next form of contamination is chemical contamination. Chemical contamination, as in the name, it is the presence of harmful chemicals in food. So these chemicals may vary. It could be cleaning products or pesticides. For example, it is important to wash your fruits because the fruits can contain pesticides in them. So chemical contamination has one of the most like the biggest health problems, such as cancer and reproductive problems. To prevent it is important to be aware of what the cleaning products and pesticides are, and make sure you wash fruits and vegetables before eating them. So here's and the next form of contamination is physical contamination. It is the presence of foreign objects in food. As seen in this loaf of bread, there is a beetle in it. It looks like some sort of bug. So that is an example of physical contamination because it is something outside that shouldn't be in the food. So it is important to look at the food before eating it. And some solutions to prevent physical contamination is to make sure your hair is tied back, because hair is also another example of physical contamination. Also, wearing gloves and using clean utensils can also prevent it. So another big part of food safety is allergens. And a lot of people, like as they grow older, they think that their allergies go away. So this is also another problem. So it's also always important to get in touch with the doctor to see if your allergies are still there. So it's not just food allergies, there are also inhalant allergies and skin allergies to be aware of. And yeah. So moving on to cleanliness and hygiene. So how many of you wash your hands properly after using the restroom? Well, as per the CDC, 70% of people do not, and 25% of foodborne illnesses are caused by it. So another thing that prevents the rate of bacterial growth is having a clean kitchen. And having a clean kitchen is essential to preventing any types of food contamination or maintaining food safety. So when surfaces and utensils are not properly cleaned, this causes bacteria to spread, and it leads to something called cross-contamination. And I don't think I've mentioned it before, but cross-contamination is when something, like for example, a surface, it spreads bacteria to food. And then when you consume the food, it brings all those germs in your body. So this can lead to foodborne illnesses. So it's always important to clean the surfaces and utensils, because this could lead to cross-contamination. And when you clean it, it reduces bacterial growth, because bacteria tends to strive more in warm and moist environments, such as kitchens. So now let's talk about food handling and storage. So here are some tips. It is important to wash your fruits and vegetables regularly, because as I mentioned before, fruits and vegetables contains pesticides. So it's important to wash them. And also, do not cross-contaminate raw meat, poultry, and seafood, because these three are the hub to all the cross-contamination. So it's important to make sure your meat, poultry, and seafood is not in touch with any countertop that's unclean. Also, it's important to store food in airtight containers. This is important to prevent food spoilage, which is a form of food contamination. All right, so here are some more tips. It is important not to refreeze food. When you refreeze food, it can also increase bacterial growth. And I know a lot of people who refreeze their food, but it is very important not to, because bacteria can double and sometimes triple when you do this. So it is also important to store food in the fridge within 2 hours of cooking. So this is important also. And this also prevents the rate of bacteria. So bacteria is the main cause of food contamination and bad hygiene. So now moving on to hygiene practices. So even though it may seem simple, a lot of people do not apply it, according to the CDC. It's important to wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. This part is the part that many people tend not to follow. So even though a lot of people wash their hands with soap, but the 20 seconds part is what throws people off. It is also, if there's no soap or water, it's important to use alcohol-based sanitizer, as it is better than using nothing, but it doesn't act as a replacement to soap. So here's some more hygiene practices. It is important to clean and sanitize all surfaces, because this also prevents cross-contamination. It is also important to always use separate cutting boards for raw meat, poultry, and seafood, because this also prevents cross-contamination. And it is important to cook food to the proper internal temperature to kill bacteria. This is important, and I'll dive deeper into this in the next slide. So, one of the major impacts on bacterial growth is temperature. So, as you see in this diagram, the danger zone for any food, storing food, is 40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Because this is above freezing level and this is below the cooking range. So, in other words, anything in room temperature is the danger zone. So never store food there for probably over 2 hours. And this is important because when you store food at this temperature range, bacteria can grow much faster. And when you store food at below freezing, it doesn't mean that the bacteria is killed. However, if it's above 140 degrees, the bacteria is fully killed. Moving on to cleaning and sanitizing. So this is like a wrap up of everything. So as you see in this graph, only 15% of what contributes to bacterial growth is temperature. There are many other factors. And keep in mind, these factors include time, cleaning method, and type of surface. And using the correct cleaning substance when cleaning, because when you use the wrong cleaning substance, then that also leads to issues. So time is important because for instance, when you store food at room temperature, you cannot go longer than 2 hours. Otherwise, the food would become contaminated. So here's, according to the FDA, it is important to have seafood below 40 degrees and cooked food above 145 degrees, because this is the primary factor to food-borne illnesses. And it is improved, and it has been approved helpful too. So here am I, we're excited and hope you enjoyed this presentation, and feel free to check out our Instagram, which is at WHA Fooditude, and our newly launched website. So thank you. Any questions?
I have a question actually. So you know how you're talking about all the different temperatures and how you want to keep your food out of the danger zone?
Yeah.
Is that only true for like meat products, or is it true for other types of food, like dairy or like fruits and vegetables?
So yes, it does apply to fruits and fruits and vegetables, but it's not at the same scale compared to the poultry, seafood, because fruits and vegetables, like it takes days for bacteria to grow. However, the rate of bacterial growth in seafood, only in 2 hours, it could potentially have like all that, because it's very moist, and usually seafood tends to have is more likely to have that bacteria and moss and all that stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's really good, helpful information. Yeah. A lot of things which, you feel that, okay, you don't think about it, like for how long food can sit outside fridge and everything. That's good.
Arush, can you go back one slide?
Yeah.
One more. So I think, I mean, I don't, I'll let to check this, but I think storing raw meat, poultry, and seafood at 40-degree Fahrenheit sounds great. But I think you need to cook food at 145 degrees, not store it at 145 degrees.
Yeah. So
Cook food, yeah, that's what it says. I think cook.
No,
and cook
it's
food,
talking
sorry.
about storing cooked food at 145. So I feel you need to cook food at 145, probably. You need to check this part.
Yeah.
I'm a little unsure about that. Okay.
I mean, if bacteria does grow, if you cook food at 145, I mean, or above, then it kills all bacteria. So
Right. So it's a cooking temperature, not a storing temperature. That's all I'm trying to say. Yeah.
oh, I might have said storing, yeah.
Yeah.
But
that-
yes,
that's
not
all.
to get confused. So
Yeah. I have a quick question.
yeah.
So you were talking about how you shouldn't refreeze food. Like, what exactly is that, and for which types of foods?
So refreezing food, it actually is like raw meat, poultry, and seafood. That's out of it also applies to other food, but that's like the specific ones that are most affected. And what I mean by refreezing is when you freeze something and consume the meal or use it, and then you refreeze it again. You put it back in. So like when you refreeze like meat, most meat packages it says do not refreeze in the back.
Mm.
And it's applying on raw meat, poultry, and seafood. Most like most.
I think even
Got
other
it.
food,
Thank you.
among like if you deep freeze your like frozen pizza you eat, then you shouldn't freeze it again if you don't consume everything. So if you have deep freeze something, don't refreeze it. Just consume it or throw it.
I have a quick question. So what are some other negative health consequences of improper food hygiene?
So hygiene itself, I know I didn't mention like the real health effects, but hygiene could lead to many foodborne illnesses. Foodborne illnesses are more severe than you think. Foodborne illnesses are basically it could lead to other more severe things such as cancer, digestive issues, diarrhea as well. It could lead to many external issues. And foodborne illnesses are very common. I think around 1 in 10 people get sick from foodborne illnesses on a yearly basis. So,
All right, any more questions?
No, I just want to say great presentation. And thank you for sharing all the information. Hopefully, all the kids will get more conscious now of getting things clean around them and eating the right food. Thanks, Arush.
thank you.
Hey,
That's a
Arush, you
great
want to
job.
come on the camera?
Oh,
Okay, there we have Arush. Okay.
All right, thank you.